right, welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. My name is Tyler.
And my name is Nicole.
All right, so on today's episode, we are going to talk about acceptance. Acceptance is one of the core founding blocks of recovery. They talk a lot about accepting that you have a problem. Acceptance. It's very overquoted. I disagree a lot with this, and I'll explain why a little bit later. For now, right? I'll let you open it up with acceptance. So.
I just every time you say that you think it's the bullshit of, or the beginning of the bullshit of the programs. I'm just completely dumbfounded, because to me it's literally everything. It's literally everything, right? Radical acceptance and how that bleeds into expectations, and expectations being the cause of all heartbreak from just not having adequate acceptance. And what does acceptance mean? Well, it is what it is, that. I know a lot of people hate that term as well, but I mean, it is what it is for exactly how it is. And coming at my decisions, choices, interactions from a place of non-judgmental, aware of my biases, interaction with my own thoughts and my own interactions with people or things in the day, and how I have to radically accept everything for being exactly what it is, exactly how it is at the right time. I mean, I think that's, if you're able to conquer that, I'm literally just going to keep going. I truly believe, this is it. It might not be the end all be all, but it's
I'll tell you why I disagree with it. All right?
All right, let me hear it.
I disagree with the way we use it. All right? So, obviously, I believe there's stuff in life you have to accept, right? I hate, and this is just me, right? So don't crucify me, those of you that are watching from the 12-step programs. In my experience, right, I hate the terminology. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems, right? And we overquote this, right? You ever go into one of these, the 12-step meetings, right? I don't want to identify it.
People are saying it right now as we're talking about it.
They are, right?
Page.
Yeah.
417.
They're quoting the book,
yeah,
right?
they are.
And they're, every meeting you go to, everywhere you go, they're going to be like, acceptance is the answer to all my problems. And when I find something unacceptable in my life, yada, 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 yada.
What's wrong with that?
So here's the problem I see with it. I think that's okay earlier, later in recovery.
Yeah.
Right? Early in recovery, dude, I accepted I was an addict way before I sought help. Right? Yeah. I accepted it. I knew it. I made jokes about it. Right. I would sit there and be like, dude, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Right? I accepted it. I accepted that I lived in bullshit. Right? I accepted that, when we had Chris on here, we were talking. Me and Chris accepted. We talked, and we were talking before the show with you about this. We accepted, dude, we're gonna be dead by the time we're not gonna make it to 30.
Right.
Right. We accepted that. We accepted our life as by the age of 25, we're gonna be dead. Let's just wrap this up. Right. Go live the way we're gonna live. Today, I don't find anything acceptable. Right? I utilize internal anger to make change.
Okay.
Because anger is the greatest gift you've ever been given.
Sure.
Right? Anger is what allows change to happen. I think acceptance keeps you stuck where you're at. Right? If I sit around and I say, I accept you for who you are, I don't. Right? If I don't like this person for who they are, I'm not accepting you for who you are. I'm just not messing with you. Go be you. But I'll be there when you want to change.
Sure.
Right? Same way with me. You shouldn't just accept me for who I am. Right? If I'm an asshole today, don't accept that from me. Be like, yo, you're being an asshole. Right? And I feel that acceptance is very overly used in that way, right?
Okay.
Where we tell people to accept shit that they shouldn't accept, primary, like I said early in addiction, man. Like, how many times did you go to rehab?
A lot.
15, 16, I think you said on the last
Those are
episode.
just the
that we
rehabs. Those
recorded.
aren't the detoxes and the
Right,
mental
right.
health units. And
No,
I think it was 33 times, a total 33
You
times.
accepted you had a problem.
Did I? Or did I run out of money?
I think a little bit of both.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Right? And like, you accepted your life. You accepted. How many people are listening that are like, I accept that this is the way my life is? No, the fuck it's not. Right? Like, you can recreate your life at any time.
I don't think that this is a problem the way I think it's a problem. I think this is a problem with like
Perception.
I was just going to say like how I'm perceiving this term to mean, because like I'm well aware that I have my own developmental issues that really shaped or still shapes the way that I perceive and understand things. Social cues aren't great for me. It's hard for me to understand. It's also really hard for me to understand a degree of sarcasm, like so when I think of acceptance, I just think of I have to lose control of this. Okay, so we talked about Miss Bev, right? Miss Bev, love her, right? She wrote the end of that story that I was telling you from the last episode is that when Miss Jeannie had got me, Miss Bev had got me next because I would not stop hysterically crying. Like, I was just very expansive in the way that I declared myself in time and space. And she wrote stop across my forehead backwards in a Sharpie, and I couldn't rub it off or wash it off. And Turning Point had took my clothes and took my makeup, and like they were like, you're done. Like, you need a radical change, right? But those were all parts of me that I used as a mask to not accept me for myself, for who I am. And so, like,
self-acceptance is something totally different.
But again, like, and maybe it's the way that my brain is hardwired, but like maybe very loose associatively, those things, it's all together. It's one thing for me, man. I got one compartment. It's hard for me to decompartmentalize. It's hard for me to put things in boxes and move around. Everything just kind of lives together for me in my brain. And so if I need to accept who I am for exactly who I am in that exact moment in time, regardless if I'm going to change in the future or not,
right.
then I also have to accept you for exactly where you're at, for exactly who you are, doing the things you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean I don't, my participation in those events have nothing to do with my radical acceptance of the things that are happening around me.
Right.
But my understanding of acceptance is understanding that I am not in complete power of everything around me. That my perception of how things should be or should not be or act or not act is really not up to me. Really not up to me.
Is it?
I don't think so.
So let's play devil's advocate, right?
Right, devil's advocate into the wormhole that is existential crisis.
Yeah, right? Because like I think that it's not. I feel right. You can change literally everything, right?
Yeah.
I might not be in control of a situation, but if I don't like it, I don't want to accept this is just the way it is.
Right.
I want to change it. Right. I want to make change. Some of that change has to come from within. Right. Some of that change has to be with me. Right. Right. Because there's certain.
You're using accept how I think I would use allow in my brain.
Right.
So again, it's my perception of things.
So I'm very good with putting things in little tiny compartments. Right?
I wish.
Because I'm one of the guys that are the overthinkers of recovery, right? So I think that, so if we backtrack it, so acceptance in the way that you're explaining it, I think is very good when I just need to get through, right? I just need to get by. I just need something, just tell me what works, right? Mm-hmm. And then, like me, like I went to rehab and I want to reinvent the wheel, right? And I'm overthinking everything. I'm putting things into different little categories and, well, this, and this. And I think for me, what I found to be the easiest thing is I no longer need to accept any of this. And when I stepped out of that realm, I then was able to create change, right?
Okay.
Which, and I think even like the people that are listening to this, God willing, they're listening. But I think even the people listening to it, we have those different categories, right? We're going to have the people that are like, bro, that's bullshit. Like, I need to accept this, this, and this. And then we have the other group where, like, it makes sense, right? Because, like, the only thing I need to accept, I cannot use drugs or alcohol successfully. Therefore, if I pick up drugs and alcohol, I'm no longer in control, right? My life will become completely unmanageable.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother topic,
Correct.
right? Because we again, unmanageability, all that really is how much of our behaviors did we make normal that were really not real, right?
See, and mine's like, it's how much of the situation are you not able to accept?
Right. I mean, I get where you're coming from, right? But for like me, it's like, for me, it was the other way around.
Right.
Where it was, man, I accepted all this shit. I was like, yeah, I'm an addict. Like,
no,
I
never did.
accept that this is how life is. I accept that we live in a trap house, right? Because, like, we live in this apartment, and, Chris lived there, Terry, and my man Terry lived there, who's now passed on, a couple other people that passed on, but we lived in this apartment, and, like, I want to let my cat live there. You know what I mean? Like, it was black carpet. It was a trap
Oh, yeah,
house,
I remember
right?
you and Chris talking about how were you not embarrassed to have people over? It wasn't even a thought.
Didn't even care, right?
Yeah.
Because it was a real trap house,
Yeah.
right? Like, the only thing we had going in there was we had a big screen TV.
That you boosted?
Nah, well, yeah, kind of, actually. we did run a scheme on it. But really, the only reason we had that was we were able to get that so that we could run cameras to it so we could pay attention to what was going on in the neighborhood, right?
Oh, God, the meth.
Nah, yeah, it's
A little bit.
neither here nor there, right?
Nothing around.
Let's protect the guilty and not mention it.
Sure.
But anyway, like, so we just accepted, like, that is life, right? We accepted that, like, you wake up, you drink. You get high, sell some drugs, make some money, go to bed eventually, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was like I just accepted that as a life. And it was like, when I went to rehab and they were like, acceptance is the answer to all your problems. I'm like, yeah, I'm good at that then. Like, I accept this shit for what it is. Like, I'm out. Like, I accepted it. And for me, it was unlearning that behavior.
Sure.
Right? It was me unlearning, wait a minute, I don't have to accept this, right? Like, I'm a high school dropout, right? I dropped out of high school, and when I got sober, I said, wait a minute, I don't need to be that, right? Because I accepted I wasn't going to get any further, right? Because I have dyslexia and stuff, and I was like, I'm never going to be anything or get any further. So, like, today I have a master's degree. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, I took that where I was like, wait, I'm not going to accept this anymore, right? I'm not going to accept that I have this disability, more or less, right? It's not a disability. Like, I just see letters fucked up. But where I said, I'm not going to accept that anymore. That's no longer the excuse that I'm going to use, right? Because I use the acceptance as an excuse. So it was me saying, I can do different and be different. Watch this. I'm going to go do different.
Yeah.
So, like, I used my internal anger of I didn't want to be, oh, here's a high school dropout. So it was, okay, now I got a GED. Okay, now I got a bachelor's degree. Watch this. I'm going to go get a master's degree. Now I got a master's degree. Now I know a little bit about what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? So it was, in all honesty, I have enough credits for a doctorate degree. The only reason I don't have it,
Dissertation.
I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah. It's writing a book. You write a book. Or you write a book.
And I got to pay them to write it.
That's correct.
Like, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not doing
And it's
that.
preferable that you don't work during that process.
Yeah,
and you actually pay them.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's stupid, right?
Yeah.
System's broken.
Don't literally get me started.
Yeah, so I guess, so in the way that we're using this, like we're using acceptance in the same way, just different perceptions of it, right?
Yeah.
Because like for me, it was, I had to unlearn accepting everything as a problem.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not. Like I used it as an excuse.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, I can no longer use this as an excuse. I have to change shit. So I have to change myself. Acceptance is bullshit in my world. Because in my personal world, if I accept something, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. All right? I'm done. I accepted it for the way it is. Right? That's why, like, the only thing I accept today, I cannot use drugs and alcohol successfully. Right? I get that. I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
Done with that. Right? Now I have to move forward into other things. Otherwise, I'll go back into believing I can successfully use. Right?
Sure.
So, for me, I use the acceptance as an excuse. That's why I think it's bullshit.
Okay. So like, I can see how while you're talking, I'm kind of thinking like, how did I get to this perception? How can I accept this to be exactly what it is? I think it's because your institutionalization and the things that happened to you impacted you at such a young age, when I was still like trying to figure out that I had my own autonomy. Mm-hmm. I never like really understood that until I was probably in my late 20s, honestly. And so when I didn't accept something as being what it was, I was meddling in it too much. And so Miss Bev, right? So the end of this story, to turn it back around, Miss Bev, she walked me over to a sink, right? And I've done this plenty of times in inpatient to my clients too, which it's my favorite, right? So you have a sink, right? And the sink makes water. You turn on the handle, it comes out of the nozzle. The sink comes with, as a part of its creation, a drain, right? And the water, when you turn it on, it goes down the drain because somebody installed your sink and it works exactly how it's supposed to, right? But when my thinking is distorted and my perceptions are distorted and I'm living in this time and place where I cannot wake up and function throughout life without altering the chemicals in my brain that I have no business messing with, right? Mm-hmm. That I don't even really understand. When I meddle too much, it's the same as trying to reroute the water in the sink. And so here's my perception of how people think of me. That doesn't matter. And I'm going to that's a paper towel stuffed in the drain, right? And here's another paper towel of me not letting go of control when it really just needs to just live on its own terms. And I stuff that in the sink, right? And I take all these things that I'm holding on to because I don't accept something for exactly how it is. And I've stuffed the sink. And now the perfectly working sink that was exactly what it was cannot now reroute its own water because I've meddled in it. Mm-hmm. And so if I just accept that the sink is the way the sink is and it turns on and it funnels water and that's exactly what it's supposed to do, if I just accept that for being what it is, then it works perfectly fine. But if I start meddling in that with things that my beliefs and my values lead me to perceived as just unacceptable from person, place, thing, or situation, then I am radically going to be irresponsible for my choices because I will create self-fulfilling prophecies. And when you think about like us in the system, right? Which you're right, a lot of you guys that are listening, you're not professionals in the system. Sometimes you make it there, right? This all happened to me because when I was, and this is what I've been dealing with recently, which I won't talk about too much, just in case she watches, but I had my first child at 19, and I had gotten such bad postpartum after that I was like standing in such hot showers that I was causing like burns and blisters on my skin, and I was like like whacked out, and my grandparents were still attempting to raise me because I was a kid I was 19 and I was not in a good headspace. My mom was still doing all my mom things, and I had a kid. And I really wanted to be its mom because I wanted to be better at being a mom than my mom ever did, right? But then I didn't know about postpartum. I didn't know about, situations, relationships. I didn't have skills, so when that relationship with my daughter's father had fell apart, I had nothing. Right? And this was right before I started using. I would say it probably led a lot to me abusing drugs the way that I did. But I landed in a psych ward because my grandma was like, you should call somebody and see if that's normal, right? And now as a professional, I know that when someone calls and says, hey, this, that, and the third, your professional response needs to be, if you feel that you're not safe, go to an ER. You have to say that. Well, I didn't know that at that time. Not that going to my first, that was like my first mental health like experience. And so not that going to that facility was a wrong thing. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things, but I was diagnosed bipolar, and no one ever addressed my like postpartum. And so I went home, and it was still just equally as hard for me. But then I started like doing the whole medication trail because the doctor said that you have to take this medication before you can try this medication because you just have to roll stuff out. Tis is the system, right?
Right.
And
Which sucks.
It sucks. It's the worst part, because if you line up 10 physicians across the line, you're going to get 10 different opinions, and you'll probably get at least 5 different med lists or diagnoses, and so that is what it is, and we can get into that. That's another thing I had to radically accept, but I had to not accept that I knew that I wasn't bipolar, that I knew that these things were not. For a long time, I actually was just like, you know what, I got to stop fighting it. Mm-hmm. And I remember being on medication that I thought like worked for me, but really it was just numbing me in a different way. And so I didn't feel the need that I needed to seek to numb myself, right? Right. So now, like way moving forward, my daughter's 16. She just turned 16 the other day. Like, I called off work for her birthday, which was fine, because I had a kid at home sick anyways. But like mentally, it was still a lot, and what has helped me stay sober long term, and like you might disagree on this, is I was like, I have to show her that I did do something right. I didn't even see her turn 5 before I lost her, and I'm not allowed to have communication with her anymore, So
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that that's a good, like I always tell everybody is like I didn't get sober for me. Right. There has to be a motivating factor, right? Now, obviously, you have to want sobriety for you, but there has to be a motivating factor, right? For me, and I won't get into a lot of details, but my man TJ, and he should be coming home soon. That was my motivating factor. Was him in prison, and he was like, "Dude, stop what you're doing." He's like, "You're gonna go to rehab. You're gonna go change. You're gonna fix your shit."
The fact that you've broken your microphone is very distracting.
I know. I can't help but play with this. But you know what I mean. So like, and there were some other shit. When he comes home from prison, we'll put him on the show, and we can go deeper into it. But I don't really have his permission to go into it, so I don't really want to. But I believe that like you have to have a motivating factor, right? So there's also not every day in recovery rainbows and sunshine.
No, it's awful a lot of the time. Oh
my God, I hate that saying where people will be like, my worst day. When do they say my worst day in recovery? My worst day
in recovery is better than my best day high. I don't know.
I'm always like, dude, then you weren't getting high.
Then you weren't.
Right? Because
it wasn't fun after a while, but there was a time.
But there was a time that me and them oxys did great together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had some great times. But no, but to the point though is like, not every day is rainbows and sunshine, and there's going to be days where
What
it's
do they
like
say? Butterflies and orgasms.
yeah,
That's another
well,
AA saying.
there's going to be these days where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I remember I was in a dark place. The whole reason why I'm even doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Right. I was in a very dark place. I was contemplating suicide, and murder and other things. Right.
HISI. Positive
Yeah,
at that time.
yeah, whatever it is. Right.
Was positive at that
YouTube's terminology.
I don't know it.
I think we got
banned
one
yet.
video that's like not touching a band. The rest of them, like, we're fucking up the community guidelines, but whatever.
It's fine.
Right?
They'll notify us.
So anyway, like, I was in that place, and it was, I gotta do this for these motivating factors, right? Mm-hmm. And like those motivating factors, sometimes, man, you gotta grab whatever you can to keep you motivated. I know one of my best friends, his daughter, I called him and she answered the phone, and I was like, that's my motivating factor, right? It's because I don't want him to have to explain to her when she says, "Where's Uncle Tyler?"
Yeah.
I don't want him to be like, "Oh, honey," and have to explain it, right? So that's a motivating factor. So the fact that you use your daughter as, I can't get high, like, I can't go do this because I need to show her I did something different. There's going to be days where that's the only thing that prevents you from going back there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because let's face it, like, even the people listening, I mean, we have a strong recovery community, and like the people listening, like, they're struggling.
Right.
I mean, shit.
100%.
If you're watching us, you got an issue, right? We don't get through to some normal people.
If you're a working professional, there's also an issue. You don't pick this field for just any old reason.
So, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not, like, there's going to be a day where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And, like, you need that motivating factor. Like, yes, you have to do this for yourself. And we say that all the time, right? Mm-hmm. You have to want to get sobriety for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I heard that constantly.
Right.
And I would sit there and be like, yeah, but I don't want to do it for myself.
Right.
Because let's be real, that those of us, like, when you first came into the sobriety, just like when I first came into sobriety, I didn't love myself.
No.
I didn't even like me.
I still struggle with that.
Still. I'll look in the mirror sometimes and be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
At least we can look in the mirror. That's the progression.
And then there's days where I look in the mirror and I'm like, I know what I'm working with. I love this guy.
I'll get to a lot of conversations and I'm like, I'll eat alone. I know exactly what's on this table.
So like, but sometimes, man, those days, you need that. Where you're like, dude, I got to push forward, because if not, I'm going to let that person down. Or I'm not going to do this, because I guarantee you there's been days in your life, and there's been days in mine, and there's days on the people listening where it's like, I just don't want to fucking do this no more.
Correct.
Sobriety, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Right? You ever just drive by? Like, I remember being in a tough spot, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm driving, and I look over, and I see people rolling out of the bar. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I want to be there. Right. And it's without fail, right? Like, because I thought that. I was struggling. I was in a bad space. And my man Shane called me. Right? He's upstate too. And that was my factor, right? Because I was like, he was like, what are you doing? I was like, bro, I'm going through it right now. I was like, I know I normally don't talk to you about this, because, like, he's up there, right? So, like, I mean, he wants to hear about, like, what's the weather and shit. So I'm like, but, like, I'm really struggling, and I talked to him, and, like, it was our first deep conversation since we were children, and it was, that was that motivating factor. So, bro, whatever you got to use on those days, use it. Right?
No, for sure.
Because long term, as well as I do, if we're just like, I don't want to fucking do this anymore, and I don't have anything else, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
And it was all for nothing, right? It was all everything.
It's easier to give up than it is to keep going. And always, at any time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, when I talk to people, even now in my job or at the unit, and they're like, I've had enough. I want to check out. I'm like, hey, Helms, I get it. Yeah. Kevorkian, was he really that bad? You know, like I kind of, and I'll make dark jokes about it. It is what it is. But I mean, for people like us who have really struggled with, is it worth it to continue to live anymore? I mean, this is what goes through our head.
You got to worry about if it's worth it even to do this anymore.
Honestly.
Because there's been days where I'm just like, I'm broke. It would be worth it for me to sell crack again, right?
I was literally just thinking that's kind of almost the bigger struggle now is that it's not even like doing the drugs, like things that these kids, I mean, honestly, if you guys are out there struggling, trying to get sober, the things that you guys are going through and doing now, I mean, I can't begin to start a perception about that because those things were not available to me.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest. Today, I
would die. I would be dead.
I commend the people that get sober today.
I can't believe it.
Right?
I thought it was hard when I did it.
Like,
it's
I got
easy.
sober in 2006.
Yeah.
In 2006, we didn't have all this shit. Right?
Nope.
Like, we didn't have the medical marijuanas, the Suboxones, the methadones, and I think we talk about this.
We just had methadone. That was it. It was like,
oh yeah, we did have methadone.
Die from the eat cake or death. And it's like, that's not cake. That's methadone. It's gross.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we didn't really have that. Yeah. Right? So, for me, like, it was, back then, it was like, I don't have another choice. Mm-hmm. Right? And I guess that was a blessing, too. Because when I got sober, it was, I don't have another choice. Right. This is my only plan.
Right.
Right? It's either this or I go with these people that are pushing me to stay to do this. Mm-hmm. Right? And again, he'll come on and tell the story. But it was, I gotta do this. So today, these guys out here today, man, I commend them a lot.
I can't believe it.
Just getting sober today's world is so much harder.
Well, and like even the systems are different. Like I remember when I got sober, it didn't matter if you had been to that rehab 6 times that month. Especially if you had Medicaid, you were getting right in.
Yeah.
It didn't matter, there were next to no limitations. And so like if I ran out of money, if something was running too hot, I needed to go somewhere. If I ended up homeless for one reason or another, I could just jump in a rehab at any point I want. It's not the same anymore. Insurances don't do that. They're not all DNA, especially like in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure about like what the laws are in the other states. They're all for profit. There's non-profit, so
the
like.
insurance company literally told me, I hate this, man. It's like, I had an insurance company tell me with the guy, she said, well, homelessness is not a factor to keep them in rehab. And I said, what if I send them home homeless? Mm-hmm. He's going to use again.
Correct.
Because what other option does he have? It's December, freezing cold out. Right. What choice does he got?
The homeless shelters are full, rehabs are full.
Yeah, she said, well, you better figure it out because, like, being homeless is not an excuse. And luckily, I met a guy who owns 3-quarter houses.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about this guy.
Yeah, and, he's controversial. There's some things he does that's kind of fucking weird.
But he's making money.
He's a nut, right?
Sure. Aren't we all?
But the man's got a heart of gold, right?
Sure.
And what it is like he will take people into his 3-quarter house with no money, help them get on their feet, get a job, and then worry about rent later, right?
Yeah.
Nobody else is doing that.
No, I feel this way halfway about one county program.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another one that does.
Nobody's doing that.
Right.
Everybody's like, I just spoke to another girl. I was like, hey, I got a guy that I really want to come to your 3-quarter house. Mm-hmm. Right? And she, well, it's $500 down. And I'm like, right. But they're in rehab. right? And like, I don't know, man. Like, how many people are going to rehab with $500 to put on housing
Right.
when they come in? Not many.
I just
right?
thought about a Dope Daddy reference, which we'll talk about that later.
But like, I mean, not many, right? So the fact that that's how the biggest flaw in the whole system, and that people don't understand.
No.
Right? People will see people and be like, well, they went to rehab, why are they not fixed? And it's like, bro, I'd send them back to the same environment because there's nobody else that'll take them.
Correct.
Right? And luckily, and like we can go on, right? Because like even the homeless shelters are bullshit. They don't really help people. I tried to get a guy into one, and it was like I had a better chance of going to meet Jesus himself than get this guy into a homeless shelter who was homeless and had nothing.
Well, and the counties are selling their souls currently, and so there's one good, if you can call it that, there's one decently sized. I don't know about the quality of what it is, and that's in one town, and it's like they're taking all the people who, why aren't they fixed, that mentality, and they're taking them up to that one shelter. So then now that town is kind of being overrun, and they have limited, we're out here in rural PA. The limitations on resources is so real, and then that's another part of why the system's broken.
So
I could go on. And that, like, I won't accept that. I will not accept that.
Yeah, so we can kind of go down this rabbit. So we'll kind of go down this whole, like, in our county, for example, like, we have a lot of homeless people.
So many.
And people pretend like it's not real.
Well, because they're on the trail, so object permanence is real. What you don't see doesn't exist.
And they'll be like, well, there's a homeless shelter. Where?
Where's
this at?
Where is it?
The shelter that's here has like 4 beds.
Correct.
Right? Hard as hell to get people into.
Sure.
Right? The other one has like 4 beds. That's it. So you got 8 total beds. Mm-hmm. Bro, there's families out here that are homeless.
Absolutely.
Right? And like I get it. Like a lot of people are looking at it doesn't affect me, so therefore whatever.
Sure. I mean, it ultimately does.
It does. It does. It
understand how systems work. You just watch it cripple. It's like a domino.
You know, well, just in our local area, I know, like, I'll go up to the gas station or something, and I've heard people, oh, there's that guy again. You know, he's gonna ask for money, maybe a cup of coffee. I'm like, right. He don't have anything. Like, this man lives under the bridge.
Right.
And when they tried to find him a shelter, there was no place to give him a shelter.
Right.
So he went back under the bridge.
Right.
Right. And like, it's just crazy. And like, I hate it. I wish that I wish somebody would do something different. But back to the main point is, like, that one guy, like, I got a guy down in Butler, and like he'll take him, man, and like, and then everybody calls bitching and complaining, right? Well, what about our place? What about this? Why aren't you sending them here? And I'll say, will you take people without money?
Right? It's very mixed signal. You say you want people, but then only if it directly profits you from exploiting their misfortunes.
And then you'll hear
conspiracy
people,
theories a different way.
we can put them into this. They got a couple funding resources, and they'll be like, well,
they're tapped out. I'm going to tell you, as a person that does resourcing every day, they are tapped out.
Well, not only that, it's like, well, here's the thing. They can't get it. Nope. They don't qualify.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
Every once in a while, you find somebody who does qualify, and we're able to get them in, and like, it's cool. Like,
yeah, because they have commercial insurance, which means they have a job.
Right.
How are you holding a job with luxury insurance while struggling with mental health and addiction issues?
And that's what I hate, is because a lot of people look at it like it should be so simple.
It's
right?
not.
And it's like, bro, it's not. And like, there's a lot to this and a lot of moving forces, and like, our system is so fucked.
Yeah.
That like,
that's just the general population system. That's not even the vet system. And like, I can't even start
these people
on the VA, and like, it makes me sick. Who's there for these veterans? Like,
I wish the people that were making these decisions in our state, I wish they could come with me for a day.
Well, Tyler, that's why I need to take over the world. I have 20 years left.
Well,
And that really, honestly, that comes from understanding, you and I understand what it's like in the system. We have a level head on our shoulders. We were able to survive. My kid, my autistic son, if he hits the system, they best employ me right away. Like, I'm telling you what, you will learn least restrictive as fast as I can possibly teach you.
But that's why, like,
who's there for him?
The people that make these decisions, right? If we could get them to come with us for a day, like, do you know how many I've been working in substance abuse for like 19 years of my life.
Right.
Do you know how many conversations I had to have with mothers whose son just died? Or like children, why their dad's not here?
It's the worst.
You know? And I'm like, you know, I want one of these people to come have that conversation. I want you to... Right. I've been through a lot of bullshit in life. And when I was in active addiction, I saw and heard things that are unbelievable and are crazy. Nothing will ever compare to the scream of a mother losing her only son or their only daughter, right? I want you to have that conversation and tell them,
right,
we weren't able to get your child taken care of because we just didn't have it took it would have taken money, right? Like, we're playing with people, we're putting price tags on people's lives.
If you would have had 40 grand, I'm sure he would be, you know, right away running jet skis in Florida. Now he's not.
And
it just doesn't work that way.
And that's not always the answer, right? Because there are people that do have the funding money and they get all the money.
And good for them. I don't want to good for them.
And that's why I'm saying that is because where it doesn't work, right? And they still continue to use and stuff because it boils down to you and your choice. Like, rehab is not the thing.
I had an ex like that. His parents were loaded, and I always thought they're going to pay for him to kill himself is what's happening.
But not only that, though, it's like...
Best intentions.
It's...
Perceptions were off.
It's hard to sit back and watch somebody you love kill themselves.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's hard... It's equally as hard to sit back and say, I'm sorry, these resources are out there, but I wasn't able to get your child connected to these resources because the red tape that was in the picture, right? And and it's a shame. And I don't know, that's kind of the hope for this podcast.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. I hope that we can generate revenue because I want to do that.
Yes, we want
the revenue.
We would like to make money.
Well, I want to take it and be able to do the best we can do at not changing the system.
I would put it back into the community.
I want to actually, I want to be able to be that,
right? Where
we can, I want to open,
I want to be that Miss Bev for somebody. I want to be that Miss Jeannie for somebody.
I want to open up a 3/4 house and be I don't need your money to come here. I need you to want to stay sober, follow these guidelines, and you can live here.
Yeah.
Right? And actually be able to help somebody. Because that's the big thing is being able to have a place to live, a job, for shelter. So food, clothing, and shelter, right?
Yeah.
If I can't get those, what are you going to do?
Anything you need to survive. And that's
I'm going to mix baking soda. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're going to mix up a little bit of baking soda and we're going to go get it.
I think Maslow taught us about this, yeah? I think he...
Yeah. Ammonia if it's good. But, neither here nor there, right? But ultimately, though, that's what it boils down to is, and we'll have some people on from this that are coming out of prison that that's the other struggle is bro, you don't have no access to it. You don't have the ability to do these things.
Right.
What else are you going to do?
Right.
And
if I'm homeless, unemployed, but yet I can go with somebody, get high for free, sleep on a couch, why wouldn't I want to keep doing that? Honestly.
Or if I can get out of prison and go get a G-Pack fronted to me and I can get back on my feet that way, that sounds a lot easier, right? And I know that's very controversial, right? People will bitch and complain and, oh, no, you gotta work hard to get whatever, and like, yeah, that's true.
Right. I'm not,
And, like,
dismantling
God
that theory.
bless your ability to do that.
Right.
But when you have that long gap in history where it was like, even now, like I got a friend of mine, man, it's so crazy. Like he's doing 10 years in prison over marijuana. Now this shit's legal.
I know. And again, this is what's broken with the system. Because if they were to go back on that, then all these people would have to come out of prison systems. Prison systems are now for profit.
But when he gets out, right?
And again, we'll go into conspiracy theories.
There's that long gap of history in there. So it's, yes, he's going to have to fight. And he will have resources available to him. But, it's also one of those things where there's such a long history gap. Who's hiring him?
Right. Right. And
I hate that argument because people will tell you.
Because then they'll come right back with,
oh, there's all these jobs out there hiring people. And it's like, yeah, again, go away for a long period of time, come home, and then try to do it. There's only a few places.
People want you to have a master's degree and be paid $15 an hour. Out of here. Right. Out of here.
And they take advantage of the people.
Because those are your county employees. Those are your county employees. Those are your jail employees. Those are, let's pay them $15 an hour, force them to have a degree, and then put them in a culture that suppresses their way of thinking autonomously. It's fine.
Bro, we're way off subject.
It's fine. Well, but the point of that is if I don't accept that for exactly the way it is, then I would have never been able to advocate for myself into somebody reevaluating the history of my diagnosis, into the history of how that medication wasn't right for me and shouldn't, or into, I would have never really appreciated the adoption that happened with my daughter. I would have never today. She speaks 2 languages. She's on the Honor Society. She's absolutely beautiful. I did none of those things. And so if I didn't have some sort of acceptance of those things, I'd be out drinking because of that. I'd be like, you know what? I'm her mom and she doesn't even know that, yada, yada, this person this person that. No, man, she has a beautiful life. And my acceptance is...
Well, I'm glad that you don't use acceptance as an excuse. Because I would.
I'm trying not to.
Right? I would.
Yeah.
And So I don't accept that our system is this way. And God willing.
I don't allow it to, I guess this is the point where we don't accept it, but we do allow it because what are we going to do? But we can't start at the bottom, which is what we've learned.
I don't know. I'm trying to create change.
Oh.
I'm trying to do things to create change.
It feels like we're holding up the world.
But that's me personally.
I
no longer want to participate in the normal, I no longer want to participate, and I've no longer accept the fact that this system has to be the way it is.
Right.
Right. And
I don't want that either.
If I got to play career suicide to do so, I will create some form of change somewhere along the lines. You know what I mean? But we're at 48 minutes. Right?
We're at 48 minutes.
So, which I'll explain because I don't know what episode number this is going to be or how we're going to air this. But we're going to try to keep, when it's just Nicole and I, we're going to try to keep our episodes down to 30, 45 minutes, just for us too.
I don't want to see us for any longer than that.
No, and when we have a guest on, because the guest does all the talking.
Right.
Right.
They're important.
And most importantly, right, you could have been anywhere in the world today, but you're here with us. And the fact that you actually stuck around and want to hear us talk is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I
thank you for listening.
Greatly. Oh my God, do I thank you for your support.
Thank you for subscribing. Subscribe if you haven't already.
Yeah, and then tell your friends to subscribe.
Yeah.
Whatever. Everybody does. Subscribe it, like it, share it, and then like it and share it again. Send it to all your friends. Tell them the same. Hopefully we can, I guess at the end of the day, man, if we can change one person, we can change the world.
Just one.
So, again, thank you for listening to us, and that's it, man. Have a good night.
Keep happy hour happy.
There we go.
Thank you for watching.